Have you ever seen an overhelper? Or somebody, maybe you've been an overhelper? This is somebody who's, want to help so much. You just want to get your fingers in there and help so much that you actually hurt or you cause problems or maybe make it worse than what it was. Uh, Two stories come to mind for me. One was when we were visiting our family back in Quebec, and our grandson Ludo he's a Lego master, still is, but this is back when he was 7 or 8 or something like that, and we had purchased for him this intricate big machine thing craft that he had to piece together. It was going to take him days, I'm sure. I didn't realize how good he was, but anyway, being the helpful grandpa, I decided to give him a hand. And so I was showing him different things and reading the instructions and piecing these little pieces together. And as I was doing all this stuff, I noticed that he had gotten up and walked away. I was an overhelper. He didn't need my help, really. In fact, once I actually apologized, said, "Hey, you just build it," and he didn't even read English. He was like, or that well anyway, maybe he did, but he would just see the picture and boom, he'd get it done. He got done quickly, like in an hour or so, and I was like, whoa. So here's me trying to be the overhelper. Another time I remember being as a young kid, we grew up on a hobby farm, and so yeah, you have chickens and ducks and geese and goats and those kind of things. And I remember when there was a season where we had chicks coming, and so the chickens had laid eggs, and I remember thinking, "There's life in those eggs. I'm gonna check it out." And so when I cracked it open, well, I found out that that wasn't a good thing to do. Later on, when we had eggs being incubated, I thought about helping out the chick there, coming out of that little eggshell thing there, but you know. I was smart and I read up first that you probably shouldn't do that, because if you actually help out the little chick from his shell, it won't go well for the chick. The breaking past the shell and all that, it's all part of the process that actually makes the chick strong. And he probably would have killed it if I had done that very thing, trying to free it. So it's kind of similar to when you might want to help a butterfly emerge from a cocoon, and then you find out when you do that it can't fly. See, I'm saying is that sometimes we play the overhelper. Sometimes when it comes to birthing somebody into the kingdom, we think that we need to help the Holy Spirit, or sometimes we can push too hard or poke too much, and we're not allowing for the person to really come to their decision by themselves, which they need to do with the real helper, the Holy Spirit, who is there to birth him or her, so to speak. Don't get me wrong, there's a part for us to play. We might water, we might plant a seed, but really it's the Holy Spirit that is going to germinate that seed, and he's the only one who can do it. The Holy Spirit is the one. David Redding in Christianity Today, he wrote this some years ago. He said, rebirth cannot be predicted, and it cannot be scheduled, like this being born again. You can't schedule it. It's never accomplished through our clever leading questions or our smarts. It happens after a sufficient incubation period. Remember the chicks? Well, all we can do to help it along is to wrap that other person up in patient prayer, and when it's time for them to be birthed, we best just keep out of God's way. It's a tricky thing, though, because we do have a part to play, and we need to pray, and we need to be patient, and we need to sometimes say something when God says now's the time, say something, or sometimes we need to shut up when it's time to shut up. It's all part of the process. Ultimately, though, the decision is up to every individual, though the Spirit draws them. In fact, in Acts 17, it talks about how when Paul was speaking, Acts 16 actually, speaking to a group of people, and it says that there was this gal there named Lydia, and it says, who the Lord opened her heart to hear what Paul was saying. And that's the biggest part of sharing our faith, is praying that God would open the hearts of those that we're sharing our faith with. That's the biggest part. I remember there was these two brothers that some of us guys were witnessing to, and I think their names were David and Greg, I think. David was not overly responsive, but Greg was pretty responsive. He was pretty keen to listen to what we had to say. And I remember being at coffee with this young guy, and I was feeling pretty confident that he was going to give his life to the Lord. And so I just popped the question. I asked, Greg, how about you? Do you want to give your life to Christ? Do you want to become a Christian? And he just looked at me seriously, and he just told me how much he appreciated us and what we're doing, but not for him. What? He just said, no, I'm not. I'll believe in God in my own way. And I asked him the question, what does your God do all day? Believe in God in your own way. What does your God do all day? But he didn't really have an answer for that, but it didn't matter, because I was just sort of stunned that he was a no. I really thought that he was a yes. People have to make their own decisions. He just didn't want to follow Christ, not at that time anyway. All we can do is love and show and tell the gospel story. That's our part. That's our job. That's our mission. Each person must decide on their own. Even our kids must decide on their own. Someone once said, God has no grandchildren, because everyone has to make their own decision. That's just the way it works. That's what this is all about. And so we do our part, God does his, and he gets all the glory.